I want to tell you, this is not God's world that we live in today.
Right.
On this earth. This is not God's world. Why? Because birds will kill each other. Animals will kill each other. Fish will eat each other. And man will kill man. This is not God's world. There's another world that you and I are to live in, and in that world it is forever daytime. But for us, who still have a nighttime experience, and the first day, and then comes the night, and then there's another day, and then there comes a night, so that there is a night experience for all of us. We know what we're talking about when we talk about a night experience. And so it says here that for the night, God said, I'm going to give you a light. Because otherwise you wouldn't see anything. And you'd probably break your neck, trip over something, whatever, at night time. So even in the night time, I'm going to give you a light. That's God's grace, love, and mercy. I'm going to give you a light. And it says here that to divide the day and the night, and let them be for signs, for seasons, for days, and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth, and it was so. The two great lights, the greater light to rule the daytime, and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also. Well, we understand what the light, the true light is. That is God. For when the darkness appeared on the earth in creation, on the face of the deep, it says, which really is within you, which speaks of your consciousness, that in the consciousness of man, there was darkness that shrouded that consciousness. Therefore, you are not able to see into the realm of God, neither were you able to understand exactly what God is, and to be able to relate to him. So he says that the sun was to rule the day, but at night there was a moon. And God graciously has provided us with a light, but not the light of the sun, but the light of the moon was to rule the nighttime experience. You say, well, what does that mean? Well, let me tell you. The moon has no light in itself at all. If you've seen the television pictures of the moon, it's just a dusty ball there or whatever it is, but it's got no light. Nothing is reflecting there at all. When you look at the pictures on television, it's just a bunch of dust. But for us down here, that moon is up there, and as the sun sheds its light upon that moon, it reflects its light down to you, so that at night, sometimes that moon is so bright you can pretty well read a paper out there in the light of the moon. But you see, this is speaking about you and I, so how does it relate to us? Well, you see, the moon, for most people, has been our teachers, our preachers, our pastors, who go into the presence of God to hear what God has to say. And just like Israel said to Moses, you go up on the mountain, Moses. We don't mind you going up there. You go up there and hear what God has to say. You come back and tell us.
Right.
Well, Moses died, of course. That put him out of business. But see, we still have our Moses today, don't we?
Yes.
You know, we have our pastors. You go, pastor, you go. I don't mind you going up on the mountain there. You hear what God said. Sunday morning you come and you tell us, that's fine, that's what we want. You see? Well, I want to tell you, you're living by the light of the moon.
Yes.
Why? Because it's reflected light.
Yes.
It's not the pure light.
Amen.
And you want to know why there are so many things in that Old Testament that you find hard to understand? It's because that was the nighttime experience.
Yes.
And they were living by reflected light. Moses heard the voice of God. Moses stood at the burning bush. He heard the voice of God. Israel never heard the voice of God. In fact, they said, we don't want to hear the voice of God. Because we've got the idea that if we hear the voice of God, we're all dead. Which was their crazy notion anyway. But you see, they never heard the voice of God. They only lived a nighttime experience. And all they had was the moonshine. Amen. And we wonder why we didn't get the picture straight. We wonder why. Why have we got all these different churches in the world? Why have we got all these different doctrines? Why have we got all these different ideas and so on? Because we're living by the moonshine.
That's right.
God help us. And then I read, if you turn to Jeremiah chapter 7, and listen to this. Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 21, verse 22. I spake not unto your fathers. This is talking to Israel. God speaking to Israel. I spoke not unto your fathers, nor did I command them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Egypt concerning burnt offerings and sacrifices. Lord, help us. Israel killed thousands upon thousands of animals on that altar. Every year, the blood flowed on that altar constantly like a stream.
Right.
And then I read here that God said, I never even told you I wanted all those sacrifices. I never asked you for them. You just did it. Why? You're living by the light of the moon. You get it?
Yes.
You understand? Well, I want you to understand that God never intended you to live the nighttime experience. It was just God's grace that He put a light up there for you. And that means don't get mad with your pastor. Don't get mad with them. No, that's not their fault. They're doing the best they can. They're actually God's provision for you while you're walking in the dark. You're right? So you say thank you to them. God bless you. You've done a great job. But now, God said, I want you to start to live in the true light of God.
Amen.
This is the day of the Lord.
Yes.
That is not Sunday.
Yes.
I want to tell you, Sunday was never ordained by God to be the day of worship.
Amen.
That's right.
Never.
That's right.
That's right.
That didn't come from God. That came from the Pope, actually. It was the Pope that declared, many years ago now, of course, that the Jews, they worship on the Sabbath, which is Saturday. So he said, well, we're going to change it now because we're Christians. We're not going to worship on Saturday. We're going to turn our worship into, for the day of worship, which will be Sunday. But you know where Sunday came from? It was the day of the worship of the sun god. Oh, Lord, help us. And us Protestants, we bought the whole deal from the Catholics. And so we worship on Sunday. God never told us to do that. Are you with me?
Yes.
Not mad, are you?
No.
Okay. So you see, there are so many things that we have learned, but we learned it by a reflected light.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you that there's water for you will only be a reflected light unless you hear